All right, yes, okay, the sound seems to be all right. Well, thank you very much for letting me sit on this panel. When you speak on a closing plenary, there's always this question. You come to the conference and you're like, okay, what am I going to say at the end to try and pick up some of the threads that have been talked about here? And to be perfectly honest, at the beginning of the conference, I felt somewhat awkward about sitting on this closing plenary. I thought, there's all these struggles going on in Greece right now, and here I am coming from Germany to say, hey, learn from us. Which really, and I think I said this a few days ago, that hasn't been working out so very well in the economic realm. So I felt a bit awkward about being here to kind of teach, quote unquote, folks in Greece about our experiences. But after this, at the end of this conference, I've realized that it's not so much, I think, us internationals who've come here to teach you about our experiences. I have the sense that it's you folks in Greece who have been teaching us about being able to hope again. Because if you think about it, so I'm from the Alter Globalization movement. I used to run around these WTO, IMF summits and all this stuff. Non-violent direct action, of course. Obviously. But a few years after these demonstrations started, the so-called pink tide, the new left, emerged in Latin America. And it gave us hope. I mean, all the ambiguities of Chavez, of Ecuador, of Bolivia, of course. But the pink tide gave us hope. Hope that there was something beyond just social democracy, that the left had some meaning, both in the short term and in the long term, both in terms of reform and revolution. And I think we've heard from many comrades from Latin America, to be perfectly honest, the hope that the new left inspired in Latin America, that there was something really different possible, that hope no longer exists. And yesterday we were having dinner with some comrades from SYRIZA, with Yanis and some others, and Mona, Patrick and I afterwards, we sat together and thought, wow, that was really amazing. I mean, these people were buzzing with energy. I mean, we're from Germany, which, yes, economically is an island of the blessed, but I mean, political terms, it's the country of Stasis, like not the Stasi, but of Stasis. Like there's nothing happening. It's depressing. Well, there's also the Stasi, but that's a completely different story, right? So we're from the country of Stasis, and we come here and we see you people in Greece, and it's like, okay, yes, a lot of stuff is really fucked up in Greece. But there is so much hope, so much dynamism, and so much energy. So I would say that what the Latin American left was maybe 10, 12 years ago, today the new hope is Greece. SYRIZA has a chance of coming to power at a point where Greece stands at a crossroads between 4 alternative energy futures. And I want to just quickly outline what those futures I think might be. The first possible scenario is the extractivist scenario. Sure, extractivism means lots of quick money, and that's not nothing when the economy has shrunk by 25%. Sure, but we also know, and we've heard this at this conference, what are the negatives of this extractivist model? An authoritarian state, increased repressions against social movements, insertion into the world economy at a dependent position with all its declining terms of trade. I mean, we know the story from Latin America, and of course, extractivism also destroys the environment and therefore is deeply globally unjust. The second scenario that I see in front of me is the all of the above scenario. Yeah, let's do some small-scale renewables, let's do some large-scale renewables, let's dig up the Aegeus and get the tight oil out from under there. Now, the advantage, I also have too much energy, I suppose. The advantage of the all of the above scenario is a political one. You don't have to make any choices. You don't have to alienate anybody. And of course, there's energy security. You always know it's going to come from somewhere. But the problem, this is quite a big problem with the all of the above scenario, is that it is an illusion. Large-scale extractive industries tend to crowd out investment in renewables because the initial returns in extractivism tend to be much higher. Now, capital flows are attracted either to extractivism or, if you're going for renewables, to large-scale renewables because of higher initial returns. And another problem is that it creates competing power centers within the state apparatus, and therefore you have conflicting interests. Politically, all of the above is not a possible scenario. It cannot be done. The third scenario that's been talked about is large-scale renewables. Now, large-scale renewables also seems comparatively easy because it doesn't require any significant change in legal and financial frameworks and maintains a certain kind of centralized state power. The problem with the large-scale renewables is, on the one hand, that it creates dependence on international capital markets and international companies. I mean, nothing that's a very attractive situation for a left government. And also, people have said that the only ecological movements in Greece are those against large-scale renewables, and I really would not want to be a left government that has to then go around and crush these movements. I mean, that's not what I imagine a left to be, and I know that you don't either. So that leaves us with scenario number 4. Let's call it a democratic, small-scale renewables revolution, a real socio-ecological transformation that is both ecological, democratic, and social. Now, what are the pros? What are the good bits of this scenario? Quite a lot. You get a lot of community revival. Communities that engage in renewables production tend to really kind of come together again after years of crisis. We know this in Germany, from Eastern Germany, for example. You increase energetic and economic autonomy. You increase the potential for local value creation and employment. You increase the potential for local and national democracy. You also increase the possibility for global justice, because ultimately small-scale democratic renewables are the only ecologically sustainable alternative. Now, those are the pros. What are the negatives of this scenario? We don't know if it can work. It hasn't really been tried anywhere at a national level with movements and governments working together. So that's the challenge. It's going to be bloody difficult, right? So these are the 4 paths that Greece might take, and of course the choice is entirely up to you. I mean, it might be up to Nea Demokratia, but I mean, let's just assume and hope, because this is about a new hope, that SYRIZA wins the election. So the choice is up to you, which scenario you take. But for me, I would say, if being on the left, if being to the left of social democracy has any meaning today, then that meaning is that the left, we have to improve the lives of people in the short term, and we have to create a hope that something fundamentally different and something fundamentally better is possible, that fundamental change and a radically different world are possible. That's why there are always so-called reformist and radical wings on the left, because we have to do both. Improve the lives of people now, and small-scale renewables do that, and they offer the chance for a fundamentally different world. And in the socio-ecological transition that I'm talking about, in these democratic small-scale renewables, these 2 tasks of the anti-capitalist left come together. And as I said, the choice is yours. You can go down the extractivist path. That's a path that we know leads to failure. You can go down the all of the above or the large-scale renewables path. And I've just outlined that these paths will also lead to failure. Or you can go down the path of hope, face the challenges, and maybe with the energy and the spirit and the dynamism that we've seen from you at this conference and at the excellent dinners after the conference, win the battles that lie ahead. And I can definitely tell you that in these battles, we, as your international friends and fellow travelers, we will be with you every step of the way. So what I want to say to our Greek friends is, Ευχαριστώ σύντροφοι. Thank you for your courage, thank you for your determination, and thank you for giving us a new beacon of hope. Thank you very much.